In our dark story today, we examine 7 missing person cases that still haunt investigators to this day. When a person goes missing, it is often believed that the best place to start is with the actions of that individual in the days leading up to their disappearance. Where they went, who they talked to, something they wrote down. Or maybe it's some type of paperwork right in front of our face. There is most often a clue hidden somewhere just looking to be found. There is also a belief that with every hour that ticks away, it is less likely that person will be found. Brenda K Greene was a 15-year-old girl from Brookwood, Alabama. On July 2, 1988, Brenda hitched a ride from a friend to go visit another friend 10 miles north. Brenda was dropped off in the middle of the day in front of her friend's house, which was directly across from Hosmer's grocery store. Nobody was home at that time, but Brenda insisted that she would just wait on the doorstep for her to get home. The only contact from that point was a call made to her mother at 9:30 that night telling her that she would be gone a little bit longer. Brenda would never be heard from ever again. The biggest questions surrounding this case are, where did she call her mom from? Was she forced to call her mom by the abductor to hold off search efforts? Was she still at the house when her friend arrived home? Or was she a victim in a crime of opportunity? Mary Click was from a small town in Michigan, and told her family that she was leaving town on some type of adventure. Hours after leaving, Mary called her family from another part of the state to check in with them, and let them know that she was hitchhiking, and she was okay. This would be the last time they would ever hear from her. The exact time is not known, but sometime after her disappearance, Mary's personal belongings were found scattered along a dirt road off Riverside Drive, in Thunder Bay, Canada. Some witnesses came forward stating that they did see a woman matching Mary's description walking along Riverside Drive on that day. What could have possibly happened to Mary between her phone call and Riverside Drive? Did she find another ride? Did she wander off and have an accident? Or could she have been abducted? So far, there are no answers to whatever happened to Mary. Chris Virgil was 9 years old and went missing on April 30, 1978. Chris went hiking with his mother and little brother on the Grey Rock Mountain Trail in Colorado. Chris had decided to hike up ahead of his family but eventually lost the trail and became permanently separated from everyone. 3 hours later, Chris's mom reported him missing. Out of all the other hikers on the trails that day, only 3 people came forward to say that they saw Chris. 2, being friends, who seen him near an unidentified man that was sitting on some rocks. The man had a dark complexion and wore a straw hat. As they sat down to eat lunch, they began hearing voices, one of them being a young child, presumably Chris. Suddenly they heard yelling and then it stopped. They were too scared to investigate. When they eventually came back to the spot, all they found was a Diet Pepsi can on the ground, the little boy's favorite drink. So, the question remains, was Chris abducted or did he get lost and have an accident? He has never been seen again. Mary Shin owned an art studio in Magnolia, Arkansas. She also had a second house that she owned and was trying to sell. An unidentified Caucasian male contacted Mary to meet up and tour the house. He was supposedly wanting to swap a piece of land for her house, to which Mary didn't believe would be able to happen due to legal obstacles. Shin got a second call from the man wanting to see the house again. He asked her to meet him at Food Mart across the street from her studio. He also asked if they could drive together due to his car being in for repairs. Mary told her friend that she would be back in 2.5 hours. But she never returned and was never seen again. Police were only able to garner 2 witnesses in this case. One was inconclusive and one placed a stranger, matching the description of the unidentified man, making a payphone call at the Food Mart. Shin's car was later found in the Food Mart parking lot with her keys, purse, and belongings dumped on the floorboard. The car also had evidence that it had been driven through a meadow. Foul play is officially suspected in this case. Cherie Wyant was a 14-year-old runaway from a small town in Oregon. After she was placed in a new children's home, Cherie snuck out and ran away 1 week after her 14th birthday. The next time Cherie was spotted was in San Bernardino, California. She would eventually get picked up and placed into a crisis center. Then, one day she walked out with the intention to once again run away. But this time she would end up in a traffic accident and sent to the hospital. After a few days of treatment, she would, once again, walk out the hospital, and vanish for good. The questions arose: did she find someone within the hospital to run off with, or did she become a victim of foul play? One bizarre thing did happen: she vanished in 1978 but was mysteriously reported missing in 1995. They are no closer today to finding Cherie than they were back the day she left the hospital. Barbara Monaco and her older sister took a trip to Virginia Beach right after her 18th birthday, and registered at the Aloha Hotel. They planned to stay the entire week. 2 nights later, the two sisters went to the Country Comfort Bar on Pacific Avenue. At 1:00 a.m., Barbara left her sister and began walking to the Peabody to meet up with the bartender for a date. The bar was 6 blocks away. She never made it to the bar for her date and was never heard from again. Witnesses claim they saw her get into a car on Pacific Avenue containing 5 or 6 men. 8 months after Barbara's disappearance, her family posted a $10,000 reward. One man came forward claiming he witnessed the rape and murder of Barbara. He claims she was abducted and brought to a cottage in Oceana, Virginia, and later dumped in the lake. Investigators found 2 cinder blocks and a rope sitting at the bottom of the lake, but never found a body. The witness stopped cooperating upon learning that he wouldn't been given immunity. In a shocking twist, another witness came forward and gave more details and agreed to a polygraph to authenticate his story, but took his own life the next day. No arrests have been made and her family held a memorial service for her 25 years later. Sandra Fisher was 31 years old and lived in a small town in Kentucky. She disappeared the same night that she attended the local state fair. Sandy left her children in the care of a close friend and then took off to meet some people at the fair. When her parents arrived at the pre-arranged time and place to meet up with her, she never showed up. After searching the fairgrounds, they discovered her car parked in the parking lot, which had her driver's license and wallet still locked in the trunk. Upon talking to friends, it seems that she was last seen at 10 o'clock that night. The only wrinkle in this case was that in the previous 2 years, Sandy had taken off and traveled with the carnival workers for a 2-week trip each time. But she always came back, especially with how close she was to her children. Friends claim she never would have left her kids. As of today, Sandy has never been seen again, and investigators are suspecting foul play. Since the disappearance, her daughter Kimberly has never stopped searching for her mom. The case remains unsolved.